Welcome to the conversation on the TYT network. As soon as the elections were over in 2020, conservative Democrats attacked progressives, saying that progressives cost them their own election. I believe there's a thing called personal responsibility, but I haven't seen it yet in DC. And they said, well, it was defund the police, it was socialism, and it was Medicare for all. Well, that's curious. We do journalism here at TYT, and they do journalism over at The Intercept. So what they did was they looked into the races where it was tough districts, not easy districts, where folks campaign on Medicare for all. I wonder what they came up with. Well, luckily for us, Akela Lacey, who wrote that story, is with us now. How you doing, Akela?
I'm well, Cenk. Thanks. How are you?
Good. So the progressives that actively campaign on Medicare for all in purple to red districts, they all lost, right?
No, they actually defended their seats, and a number of these people were Democrats who flipped red seats in 2018 and are strong advocates for Medicare for all. We saw the Democrats who ended up losing their seats did not run on Medicare for all, which is a small detail that has not really come through in a lot of the reporting on what centrist Dems are saying in light of the results from last week. So it's Katie Porter, Mike Levin, Tom Malinowski, these are seats that these are stalwart Medicare for all advocates, people who have been vocal on this issue throughout the cycle, who are not getting credit for running on policies that are broadly, again, supported by wide margins, that Democrats don't have any sort of interest in picking up or learning from the reasons that they ended up losing support in these races, as we saw last week.
But Akela, Katie Porter is in a Republican +3 district, so that's as tough as it gets. And she was very progressive, vocally progressive in Congress in a way that's super excited progressives, and as a co-sponsor for Medicare for all. So I mean, if you're telling me she won, and people can look these things up, they are in fact facts. She must have won by a hair, right? What'd she win by, 1 point, half a point?
I was not that close. I would need to double check the numbers, but no, it was not by a hair. She defended her seat again. She's been a popular member of the party. She's been one of the most, I don't want to use the word aggressive, but most, the people who have been questioning people during hearings in the most tactile and smart way that we've seen since she came into office. This is not somebody who is kind of like a nobody in Congress, and so it's just interesting that nobody is really talking about the fact that, again, while there are all these examples of people losing their seats in other districts where Medicare for all or defunding the police, while people weren't even running on those things a lot of the times, those aren't the areas where they're expecting them to necessarily pass. And so looking at people like Katie Porter and Malinowski and Levin is important when you're talking about whether Democrats want to learn anything from what happened.
I have your article in front of me, so I know Katie Porter won by 8 points. So
thank you.
+3, Republican district, should have lost by 3, won by 8. And you hesitated in using the word aggressive. I wouldn't. She's wonderfully aggressive. And hey, turns out aggressive wins. It turns out if you make your case, they might actually vote for you than the other guy. I know that's actually a foreign concept to Democrats, and I'm not joking. I've been sarcastic the whole time, now I'm not joking. Mike Levin is in our +1 district. He won by 12 points. So yet corporate media, all I see on cable news is yelling at progressives. It's almost as if they believe in alternative facts. Interesting. So now let's go to the cities, because again, it's a gut corporate Democrat reaction. We lost. So we don't want any personal responsibility, and we can't stand progressives, so we're gonna blame them. And then the Jake Tappers of the world are like, yes, I was waiting for this opportunity to lie to my audience. That's me talking, not you, Akela. Okay, but okay. So they all agree upon this fiction. But wait a minute, didn't Joe Biden win Michigan because of Detroit? Didn't he win Pennsylvania because of Philadelphia? Didn't he win Georgia because of Atlanta? So what happened in those cities?
So it's interesting. So Biden won, in those cities with boosts from those cities that ended up being the last cities in the last states to count the ballots last week. His margins, in Philadelphia and I believe in Detroit and Minneapolis were smaller than Clinton's margins in 2016, but turnout in those cities hit record highs. And while Trump got, more votes in those cities, they propelled Biden over the top, how he needed to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Minneapolis. And on top of that, organizers in those cities connected with campaigns for Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, and in Philadelphia connected with unions like Unite Here and SEIU, groups like Make the Road Pennsylvania, Working Families Party. These are groups that were, doing the legwork, doing the calls and text messages, and virtual canvassing to engage people down the ballot. That Joe Biden, frankly, in my analysis, I believe they helped stop him from bleeding more in these cities than he would have when the campaign, had stopped canvassing. They didn't resume canvassing until October 1st. They weren't campaigning for down ballot candidates, and they expected that, down ballot. They expected that Biden would, do well enough on his own without support from those people. We saw kind of the opposite happen with Republicans, where Trump helping down ballot candidates actually did boost them over the top in some places. And so, we're left with the questions, at least from progressives that I've been talking to, as to, why did Biden not help these groups, and now why are Democrats blaming them and their constituencies and the people who they represent on losses that we saw last week, when in reality, House Democrats and Senate Democrats haven't been able to provide anything, materially improving people's lives throughout the last, months of the pandemic. That's something that people have not forgotten.
Ilhan Omar had one of the greatest lines in political history. I said it on the spot as soon as I heard it on a podcast on The Intercept. You guys asked her, I think it was Ryan Grimm, Donald Trump attacked you in Minnesota and said that that Republicans should come out to vote against you. What happened? And she said, well, he effed around and found out. And I've never loved anything more in my life.
That was really the mood we saw in Philadelphia too. Like, Trump purposely put a target on the city. Organizers were ready, they were in the streets basically forming a counter protest to counter what didn't really turn into a Trump protest until much later in the day. But they were there basically to say, if you're gonna put our name in your mouth and come at us like this, we're going to show you that we're turning out in droves basically to unseat you. And while you might come out here and try to intimidate people outside of the convention center and make baseless claims about fraud, the city was ready basically with their response was basically dancing in the streets, which is like, whatever you're saying like isn't phasing us here, which was very much the mood until things got a little hairy with the Lewandowski Pam Bondi press conference earlier that day. But yeah.
The infamous press conference at the Four Seasons Total Landscaping actually dodged a bullet because Fantasy Island let out a little later in the day. Otherwise, they would have walked right across the screen on that. Anyways, so Kaylee, do you have a sense of the mood of progressive legislators in DC? Because I'm super tired of helping and then getting slapped across the face the minute the elections are over. And I hope to God they're super tired of it, but I don't know. So do you have a sense of like, is there a situation where they're going to imminently fight back, or are they still holding their fire for Mama Bear?
So, I mean, there's varying moods, but Ryan has been doing some reporting on the Progressive Caucus is changing, their structure in advance of trying to kind of leverage their power more this cycle. Other people are talking about what's going to happen, hoping that progressives get put into a Biden cabinet or a Biden administration, with decreasing optimism, but then wondering, what will that mean for if people leave seats in the House where they already have Democrats have a slimming margin and progressives are expanding their caucus, but again have a slim margin. I mean, some of the leverage that they hope they're having is that now that Dems have lost so many seats in the House, they really do need the quote unquote squad and expanded members to be able to do anything, and so hopefully that gives them a broader mandate. But people are, hearing comments from people like Connor Lamb, Abigail Spanberger, James Clyburn this morning, people are wondering kind of like, what is the next shoe to drop? Which policy will the Biden administration walk back first? All of this is like very speculative because, again, like we're just seeing kind of the transition teams put out, just earlier this evening. But yeah, a lot of question marks.
Kayla Lacey from The Intercept, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Cenk.
Absolutely. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below. Then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.